business owners and executives from around the Valley. This is Business Leaders with Lance Cardoza.
Good morning and welcome to Business Leaders. My name is Lance Cardoza, and I want to thank our sponsor, Flooring Liquidators, for making this episode and past episodes of Business Leaders possible. We're right here in the studios at KMPH Fox 26, and want to encourage everybody to catch past episodes of Business Leaders by going to businessleaders.tv. This week from Citibank, I have a rock star, I'm telling you. We were sitting here talking before the program, but Patricia Vazquez Topete, welcome to the program. And Citibank, you have a great title. You're a community manager, yes, and really connecting the bank to the community, right?
Yes. And
it's a community manager with like about 3 other titles on that as well. What is the official title?
The official title is Vice President and Community Relations Market Manager for the West. And I get to serve the Greater Central Valley region and a couple of counties up north.
Oh, wow. And your story, and just reading a little bit about it, is a lot of serving your community. Even before, I think you were with the bank, with Citibank, that is one thing that's been very ingrilled in you, and you carry that with a passion. Tell me, where do you get that from?
So serving, I would say specifically serving, local communities as well as immigrant communities, Spanish-speaking communities in the Valley and across California. It's my passion, and I would like to share and honor the work of my aunt, Patricia Topete. And so growing up in Mexico, I actually moved to the States when I was 12. My aunt Patricia sold lottery numbers in Mante, Tamaulipas. That's the state that I'm from. And so, she rode her bike around neighborhoods. She sold lottery numbers. That's where I learned to serve community. That's where I saw what community, providing services to community looks like. And my aunt, with the little that she made I call her a small business owner entrepreneur. She's the first experience I had from as a young child. The little that she made, that's how she sent me to school. We were a low-income family in Mexico. She had less than a high school education as a Mexican woman. But the little that she made from selling lottery numbers, it's how I went to school. It's how we were fed. It's how I had money to buy lunches like the rest of the students in school who were wealthier. I never felt like I wasn't wealthy because my aunt always provided. So from the beginning of time, I also saw her save up. She didn't make too much, but she would save up everything she made, and she would loan the money to my aunts, to my mother, to our cousins, to the women in the family. And that's where I started to see, wow, economic resources and stability and saving is extremely important to really take your family to the next level. And that's also something I've done for my younger sister. She studies in Mexico, and I've been very grateful that I have the opportunity to be able to provide for her higher ed.
And be able to do that, and you saw that through your aunt.
Yes.
So your tia, right?
My tia.
Your tia, yeah. And so you got to see her interact with the community. Like you said, she's not just selling something.
Yes.
They're buying from her. And you got to see that interaction with community and how they responded to your tia. And when they probably enjoyed to see her show up and come by and almost felt like it was family. Yes. And that is community. And you might have a product you're selling, or you might have a service you're selling, but people buy from people. And they want to invest in people because they have this trust. And you saw that your aunt provided that.
Yes.
To people. So it didn't stop there. So your sense of community involvement and the passion and hard work led you to bigger things. And I want to tell everybody at home watching here on Business Leaders that you're in the presence of an honoree of the 40 Under 40 right here for many weeks leading up on Business Leaders. We talked about young professionals out there that are civic leaders and responsible entrepreneurs in our community that have made an impact on our community. And congratulations that you're in the 40 Under 40, sponsored by businessleaders.tv. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's an honor to have been selected for the 2022 honorees list.
That's right. Every year there's a class that comes out, and I talked to our group of past alumni members when they do the selection committee, and they always wonder, are we going to find a class that was as good as last year, as good as the year I was in? And every year there's always many, many people and great nominations and really jewels of the Valley that come through, all the way from Merced down to Larry, Visaya, and those areas, and in between. And we always have a great class. And the class of 2022, you can see it by going to 40, the letter U, 40.com, and see the class of 2022, where Patricia and 39 others are going to be honored on December 1st down at Chichansee Park. So the community work that you've done led to our state capitol. Yes. And you were appointed by two different governors, Governor Brown and also Governor Newsom, on two different appointments with Governor Newsom. Talk to us about that.
Yes, so, I like to share that I relocated back to the Valley 3.5 years ago, 4 years, because I was living in Sacramento. I actually started my public service career with the executive branch as an executive fellow with Capitol Fellows, the Capitol Fellows program. And that program really offset the beginning of my career with both Brown and Newsom. And when I first worked with Brown, which it was an honor to be, in my mid-20s and be appointed by the Brown administration, and I got to work at the state census governor's office with the state. It happens every 10 years, and really California, we invested approximately $200 million in our low-income communities that typically do not civically participate, in different programs, right? Different initiatives. Yeah. So my role with Brown and then with Newsom was to really encourage our communities in the coast. So I actually had all of the coastal counties and part of the Central Valley. It was really to provide messaging strategies, outreach strategies in Spanish, and really to build trusted messages that would reach our communities and get them to respond to the census. So that was a project once in a lifetime that I got to experience, and we still make a joke that I literally worked in every department for the census for the 4 years that our office existed.
Wow, that was a big undertaking. I know when it happened, it was everything was about the census at that time. I think my wife at that time, she worked for the census. It was out in the Carruthers area. Great stories from that. Don't go away. There's more to come with Business Leaders with Patricia Vazquez Topete. We'll be right back here on Business Leaders. Make sure you go to businessleaders.tv for this episode and other episodes. Welcome back to Business Leaders. Sitting here with Patricia with Citibank. And Patricia, you were talking about your appointments at the state capitol, and at a young age too. Yes. Some people spend a lifetime in their career to get that call from a governor of any state to say, I want to appoint you to a commission, or I want to appoint you to this executive position to watch over a certain area of the state for me. And you're how old? You were in your 20s when you got that call?
Yes, I was in my mid-20s when I got that call.
So just a couple years ago.
Just a couple years ago.
So you're appointed by Governor Brown's office, but also two appointments with Governor Newsom.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
So with Governor Gavin Newsom, I was appointed. It was still with the census campaign, and that's when I was appointed to oversee all of the counties in the Central Coast. So my appointment under Newsom was really, before I was doing a lot of the administration infrastructure of the office, setting up the entire office from, scratch, getting it up and running, and we were hiring employees. I joined the census when there was only 3 of us. Oh. And then when I was at the census with my second appointment, there was 30 of us. Huge difference. I can tell you about the challenges and everything that I learned over 4 years. But when I was with Newsom's office as a regional program manager for the Central Coast and parts of the Central Valley, really this appointment got me to be on the ground. I got to be in Monterey County talking to community members, developing a lot of relationships with nonprofits that I still work with in the coast, and a lot of relationships developed here in the Central Valley. So when I moved back from Sacramento to take over the Citibank role, I already had established relationships with a lot of the partners from Kern County to Sacramento, San Joaquin areas. So I would say that second appointment with Newsom really gave me an opportunity to build long-lasting partnerships across the coast and across the Central Valley. And what I enjoy the most, Lance, is really to be in community with farm workers. I love to go to Stockton, be in front of farm workers and their children. What I'm doing with you, share my story and really just inspire them to tell them, you can, if you're a farm worker and you want to go back to school, you can get certifications. If you're the children of a farm worker and you've grown up in the Central Valley, you can go to Fresno City College, you can go to a UC or a CSU, and really the sky is the limit. You can dream, you can become a business owner, you can work in government and run a department, be an appointee to a governor.
If you dream it, it'll happen.
Yes.
And if you put the work in.
If you put the work in.
And I think your inspirations, you said your Tia, and she sort of gave you that inspiration of a lot of hard work, a lot of saving, a lot of focus, and being driven. You can go places. But when that happened for you with the governor's office, you got that first call, did you see it coming, or it was just all of a sudden out of the blue, this position was presented to you with this probably a challenge at the time, the new chapter in your life in business?
Did I see it coming? I did not see it coming. I think it was a surprise and it was an honor. I think I've always been the type of person, even when I'm working now with Citibank, I do the work. Yeah. I think my work speaks for itself. I'm the person that says, if a team member is struggling, if we need more bandwidth, even if it's not my territory or per se like my responsibility, I'm the person that says, I'll step in, I'll support. We will do this together, because if one part of the organization doesn't succeed, we don't succeed. We either walk together and march together as an organization, or we're not succeeding together. So I think the call really came from, at the census, I was always the employee that said, you need copies? Because there's no copies, I'll bring the copies to the meeting. I was running around the Capitol when the printers broke down to go borrow printers. And then I was leading meetings, right, in the office of the governor. So I think my work ethic from what do you need done will get done. No task is too small, no task is too big. And I think
no task is underneath you.
And no task is underneath me. I really think that the administrators and the leaders and the executive leaders at the census office took notice of that, took notice of what I was doing day in and day out. And that's how the call came.
And if anybody's watching Business Leaders here on KMPH Fox 26 and they say, that's me, or I can do that, you can. And if you put in the hard work, you put in the hustle, and you'll get noticed. It's just like a player that takes the gridiron or takes the diamond or is on the soccer field. If you hustle and you get to your position first and you do a great job, you will get noticed, and people will pay attention. Citibank, VP of the community manager of the western side of our is it the county, or you serve many counties, correct?
So I serve many counties. So community relations West Market Manager is the western states of the U.S. That's where the title comes from. But I do serve counties from Kern County up to Sacramento, and I have a couple more counties further north. So that's the region that I covered with Citibank in regards to providing financial education, providing resources to our communities regarding savings, financial planning, as well as workshops about becoming a homeowner as well. So that's what I get to do, among many other innovative innovative areas with the bank.
So you sort of became what your tia was to you.
Yes.
You've took on that, and that's why I say, as a young age, we have an impact on young people, and especially dreamers. So I talk about people that want to be an entrepreneur, or they're chasing that dream, and we have a big impact on people. So a lot of times when they say you can't do that, that's the wrong thing to say. All you have to do is set the target, go after the target. We'll be right back with Patricia with Citibank. Don't go away. Welcome back to Business Leaders here at KMPH Fox 26. I want to remind everybody we're on a podcast. So podcast, you go wherever you get your podcast, on your iTunes or your Spotify, you go to Business Leaders with Lance, and make sure you get our podcast each and every week right after we air right here on KMPH Fox 26. Patricia Vazquez Topete?
Topete.
Yeah, I got it. And you said there's also another middle name in there.
Yes.
But you left it off. But what is that middle name?
Guadalupe.
Guadalupe.
Yes.
Oh, that would be. So when you were a kid, that was like, it's like.
Very long name.
Yeah,
yes.
Very long name. You didn't have enough room on the paper, I'm sure, at times.
That's my email address. Very long email now.
Yeah. So thank you for being on the program. You got such an inspiring, great story. And I want to thank Citibank also, too, for allowing you to come on the show to share your personal story. And I know you're passionate about your work as the VP of Community Manager of the West Side. But talk to us about when going out and helping people, and I know going out and helping, especially people that have worked in the fields or are currently working in the fields, you had a similar experience. So that's something that you feel that you need to give back to them or give them some hope and tell them you can do something big with your life.
Yes, so something that I think is very important to share as a part of my journey and my story. When I attended college, I actually went to Fresno Pacific University for my bachelor's degree. During my summers at Fresno Pacific, I actually went to Salinas, California, and I would pick strawberries. So I was a farm worker doing my summers at Pacific, and I was out there because I needed to pay for my education, my tuition, right, room and board for higher education. And so I got to know the communities from Salinas. I got to hear a lot of stories from the farm workers that were right next to me. And I'll always remember, Lance, the women farm workers that were out there. They would always be, "You're here again. Aren't you supposed to be in school?" And I would share with them, "Yes, I'm here because this is how I stay in school." And they learned that one day I wanted to work in government. So a lot of the women actually, I wasn't the fastest picker of strawberry crops. They started leaving their strawberry boxes to help me to make ends meet for my year. And I was surprised because I thought all of these women farm workers are out here to try to really make money for their families, and they're leaving their crop behind for me.
To help you. To
help me, and I still remember the message that they told me when I was leaving back to Fresno, and they said, "One day when you work in government and are a part of policy making, remember our children, remember our stories, and remember to take us into account when you're in leadership." And I've never forgotten that request and that message.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you've continued to pay that forward. Speaking to a classroom recently, you were talking about that. And what did that do for you when you went into a classroom and really you saw the inspiration in their eyes, talking to them about your story?
Yeah, so most recently, actually about a month and a half ago, before meeting you today here, I went to speak to students at Fresno City Community College, first year students, a lot of them first generation students as well. And I remember I shared my story. I shared how I worked for Citibank, how I had worked for government. I shared my story about working in the fields in the beginning. And I also shared how I came to the States when I was 12 without my parents. And I went to college without any resources as well. Like, I was struggling. When I was in high school, I went to McLean High School, and I remembered, how am I going to attend college without any resources and finances? And I told the students, when I was in high school, I applied for every local statewide scholarship, private funding that was out there. I was up until 4 a.m., drinking Nescafe, writing another essay. I was bothering my teachers, asking them to proofread at 6 a.m. I was getting rights to the interviews for scholarships, asking my neighbors, asking my teachers. And I told the students, you, you can't tell me you can't go to college because of funding, because there is so much funding. And if you look, you will find it. If you're willing to write, if you're willing to work, there is no excuse you can't go to college. There is no excuse that you won't have access to transportation. I'll help you find it. There is resources, there is nonprofits in town. We'll look for it together. There's no reason for you not to come to class. And speaking to the students and sharing how I had been a farm worker and an immigrant without resources for higher ed, after I went to speak to them, many of them messaged me and said, I didn't know that someone like me from a farm working family, or farm workers themselves, because they had worked in the fields too, they said, I didn't know that I could work in government. I didn't know that I could work at a bank and become a BP as yourself. I didn't know that I could work in these offices that you worked for as a farm worker. And my story, many of them shared in messages, they said, it's transformed me. I will stay disciplined to my studies, and I will reach out to you when I have questions and when I'm graduating. And I encourage them, look for mentors, apply for internships, work extremely hard, and also find something that's authentic to what you like. Don't just pursue a career because of what you heard you should study. Exactly. I said, listen to your passion, because I've listened to my passion throughout my career.
And at times you're going to get no, and that's okay. You have to stay driven. And we could talk for hours.
I know.
And that's all the time we have on Business Leaders. Thank you for being on the program. Real quick question. After working in the fields, do you like strawberries?
Some days.
Some days. I had a feeling. It was a pleasure. Thank you for being on the program. And that's all the time we have. Next Tuesday morning at 11, Business Leaders.